The number one mistake that you can make is sacrificing or compromising your sleep hygiene. Sleep quality should be at the top of your priority because when you get good sleep, you're often in a good mood. However, narcissistic abuse can mess with your mind and body in ways that make it super hard to wind down and get restful sleep. Today, we'll dive into why this happens and explore how the emotional roller coaster of dealing with a narcissist can leave your sleep hygiene in shambles. Are you ready for number one? Overthinking past events. When you've been through narcissistic abuse, your mind can become a playground for overthinking, especially about past events. You might find yourself lying in bed at night, replaying conversations, wondering what you could have done differently, or worrying about what will happen next. This mental replay can keep you up for hours, making it hard to relax and fall asleep. As Dr. Judith Orloff, a psychiatrist and expert on empathy, explains, overthinking is like a mental trap that keeps you from finding peace. It's as if your mind is stuck in a loop, constantly searching for answers or trying to make sense of the chaos, which keeps you from getting the rest you need. Let's talk about number two, somatic symptoms. When you're dealing with the stress of narcissistic abuse, it's not just your mind that's affected, your body feels it too. This stress can show up as somatic symptoms, like muscle tension, headaches, or a tight chest, making it hard to relax and get to sleep. It's almost like your body is holding onto all the tension and anxiety from the abuse, even when you're trying to wind down. Dr. Gabor Mate, a physician and expert on mind-body connections, explains that the body keeps score of emotional trauma, meaning that your physical symptoms are a reflection of the stress and pain you're going through. So even when you want to rest, your body might still feel like it's bracing for impact, keeping you awake and on edge. Let's move on to number three, difficulty setting boundaries. Imagine trying to get a good night's sleep while someone's constantly knocking on your door and demanding your attention. That's what it feels like when you struggle to set boundaries with a narcissist. Because you're stuck in this endless loop of people-pleasing and avoiding conflict, your mind can't switch off and neither can your stress levels. As psychologist Dr. Ramani Durvasula puts it, narcissists have no respect for boundaries. So when you finally try to hit the hay, you're tossing and turning, replaying every awkward encounter and worrying about the next one. It's like trying to sleep in a house with the fire alarm blaring. No matter how tired you are, peace is nowhere in sight. Now let's continue to number four, cognitive distortions. Cognitive distortion is like trying to sleep while wearing glasses with the wrong prescription. Your brain's just not seeing things. When you've been through narcissistic abuse, cognitive distortions mess with your thinking, making everything seem worse than it is. So instead of a peaceful night's sleep, you're lying there, convinced that every shadow in the room is a monster or that your life is falling apart. As cognitive psychologist Dr. Aaron Beck says, our thinking patterns shape our reality. If your brain's stuck in distortion mode, it's like you've got a built-in horror movie running on repeat, keeping you wide awake. You might as well give up on counting sheep and start counting your irrational fears instead. You shouldn't miss number five, hyperawareness of time. Imagine trying to fall asleep while a giant clock is ticking loudly right next to your bed, and every second feels like it's mocking your inability to get some rest. That's what it's like when you're hyper-aware of time because of narcissistic abuse. You're not just worried about sleep, you're obsessively watching the clock, stressing over every minute you're not getting shut-eye. As therapist Dr. Ellen Hendrickson points out, anxiety loves to play with time, making everything feel urgent. So instead of drifting off, you're lying there counting every tick like it's a personal failure. It's as if the pressure to fall asleep has turned your bed into a high-stakes game show, and losing means more anxiety and less rest. Are you still up for number six? Unpredictable environment. Imagine trying to stick to a bedtime routine when your life feels like a reality TV show with constant plot twists. You never know what's coming next. That's what it's like when you're living in an unpredictable environment due to narcissistic abuse. Every day feels like a new episode with unexpected drama, making it impossible to set a regular sleep schedule. As Dr. John Gottman, a renowned relationship researcher, says, unpredictability in relationships leads to stress and confusion. So instead of a cozy bedtime, you're stuck navigating a chaotic circus where your sleep routine gets thrown out the window. Let's keep it moving to number 7, the fear of abandonment. If you've been through narcissistic abuse, you might find yourself constantly anxious about being abandoned, and this fear can seriously mess with your sleep. Your mind races and you find it hard to relax when you're always worried that someone might leave you or that you'll be alone. Dr. John Bowlby, a psychologist known for his work on attachment theory, says that fear of abandonment can trigger intense anxiety, which keeps your body in a state of high alert. So even when you're in bed trying to rest, the fear of being left alone can keep you awake, tossing and turning, as your mind struggles with the anxiety of feeling unloved or unsupported. Here comes number 8, guilt. Picture lying awake, replaying every tiny mistake you've ever made as your brain's stuck on a loop of your personal blooper reel. That's what guilt can do to your sleep. When you've been through narcissistic abuse, guilt over perceived failures or mistakes keeps you up, analyzing every detail like it's a big deal. It's like your brain has its little inquisition going on, complete with imaginary judges and a never-ending list of things you should have done differently. As Dr. Harriet Lerner, a psychologist, says, guilt is like a sneaky thief. It steals our peace of mind. We are moving on to number 9, self-criticism. Imagine your inner critic as a very chatty, very judgmental coach who never lets you off the hook. Welcome to the world of self-criticism from narcissistic abuse. When you've been on the receiving end of a narcissist's constant put-downs, you start to internalize their criticism and beat yourself up over every little thing. It's like having a nagging voice in your head that won't let you rest, constantly reminding you of all the ways you're failing. As psychologist Dr. Kristen Neff says, self-criticism is the fastest route to self-loathing. So instead of drifting into dreamland, you're stuck listening to this internal commentator, making sleep feel like an elusive prize in a never-ending game show where the only contestant is your restless mind. Finally, we're down to number 10. Constant monitoring. Imagine trying to fall asleep while someone's standing right by your bed with a flashlight, making sure you're not sneaking off for a midnight snack. Yeah, that's what constant monitoring by a narcissist feels like. When you're being watched or controlled, it's like having an invisible, overbearing roommate who never lets you relax. This constant surveillance messes up your sleep environment, making it hard to unwind and feel safe. As Dr. Sherry Hamby, a psychologist and expert on trauma, notes, when you feel constantly watched, your sense of privacy and safety is shattered. So instead of sinking into a comfy sleep, you're lying there feeling like you're on display in a never-ending reality show, where the only thing you're winning is a lack of restful sleep. We've explored why victims of narcissistic abuse often find themselves struggling with poor sleep hygiene. It's not just about having a rough night now and then. It's about how the emotional toll and stress from dealing with a narcissist can mess with your sleep. If you're facing this challenge, know that you're not alone, and understanding the connection is a big step towards finding solutions. Taking small, positive steps to improve your sleep habits and addressing the emotional impacts can make a world of difference. Remember, getting better sleep starts with taking care of your mind and emotions, so be patient with yourself. Here's to better nights and brighter days ahead.